I'm Helen Robinson, the founder of Gentle Release Therapy, and I just wanted to share a little about how it came about. I'd always loved looking after people, and following a degree in hospitality management, somehow by the age of 21, my mum and dad trusted me enough to invest in a hotel for me to run. It was very hard work and some very interesting stories, but I loved it. Unfortunately, then my dad was diagnosed with cancer. Around the same time, the neighbours offered to buy the hotel, so we made the decision to sell. I didn't really know what I was going to do next, and it was my dad who suggested I come and work with him. In the 1980s, my dad had been in charge of the traffic signals at Lincolnshire County Council. He developed his own software to help him do his job and then ended up having to build training courses around it. And he eventually created a whole symposium where each year people would come together to rejoin as a community. I watched that being built long before I ever realised I'd follow a similar pattern. So I joined him. I went back to college, I did A-level maths and then a master's in transport planning and engineering. I taught courses, I helped run the symposium, and I loved that side of it, organising everything, bringing people together and making sure it all worked. And for a long time, I thought that would be my future, and I was more than happy with that. Well, when my parents both passed away, quite close together, I couldn't stay with the business. So I decided to take the opportunity to train in complementary therapies, something I'd always been interested in, but I'd never had the opportunity to follow up. So in 2011, I trained in a few therapies ready to open my own business. And I remember that energy work was probably the hardest part to grasp. It certainly didn't come naturally to begin with, but once I'd finished the training room and was settled and comfortable in my own treatment room, something started to shift. And I began to notice that if I gently held an area, I would often get more of a response than if I tried harder to make something happen. And as I worked like that, my own body would respond too. Things like yawning, tears, or hiccups, little signs that something was moving, although I didn't realise what they even were at first. And that didn't happen overnight. It changed slowly over years to the point where I realised I wasn't really giving a treatment based on anything I'd been taught anymore. Something new had emerged without me even trying to create it. I wasn't working on the body anymore, I was listening to it. I was giving it space and permission to relax, release, and let go. And the more I worked like that, the better the results were. Not because I was doing more, I was actually doing less. Less forcing, less trying to get it right, just listening, properly listening. And by 2017, my clients were asking if there were any books about what I was doing. And to be honest, at that point, it didn't even have a name. But something was clearly happening, and I had to ask myself, is this just me? So I trained three friends, a nurse, a biology teacher, and a long-standing client. Three very different people. I wanted to know that it wasn't just me, and every single one of them could feel it too. They practiced on friends and family, they were getting real results. And that was the moment I realised this wasn't something I'd designed. It hadn't come from a textbook, it had arrived. From being willing to stay still and listen, even when I couldn't explain it. And the more I've worked like this over the years, the clearer something has become. Sometimes we hold tension for so long that it begins to feel normal. We don't even realise it's there anymore. It just becomes part of how we move, how we breathe, and how we live. And you don't need to understand something to release it. The body doesn't work like that. There are things the body has been holding for years that the mind has never put words to. And talking can be really helpful. It really can. But it doesn't reach the place where something is actually held. And that's where I work. That's where we work. Gently. Because the body feels safe, it lets go. Not because it's being told to, but because it's ready and it feels safe. And often people will say to me, I don't even know what that was, but something's definitely shifted. And that's enough, because the body already knows. Since that first training in 2018, this work has grown in ways I never expected. I think a big part of that is because I'd already seen what that looks like. I'd grown up with it happening in the background of my life, so it didn't feel like a stretch moving from therapist to teacher. And knowing that gentle release is reaching people that I will never even meet is something that I still find hard to put into words. Because the real truth is, if I hadn't lost my parents, I'd still be a traffic engineer, and there would be no gentle release. Our physical, emotional, and spiritual energy just needs space. There's no rush, nothing to force, nothing to fix, just space to soften. And when that happens, things can change. Sometimes quietly, sometimes more noticeably, but deeply. Bodies have so much to say. We just don't always take the time to listen. Because gentle is not the absence of power, it's the deepest form of it.